All right, let's see what we got here. It's an interesting spot to bounce here on ES. Still not convinced we're going to go up yet. We do have a sizable gap down here up to 69.32. I don't love how positioning looks like either. It's very fishbone pattern. Looks like a fishbone pattern. And this entire range from overnight high down towards 6,900. Just love it. We got a pretty decent divergence here too between ES and NQ on the 4-hour candles, or the current low. That was actually a beautiful long on NQ. That's my mistake for not seeing that a little earlier. I wanted to see ES go a little bit lower. But I guess I didn't get that, so that's the main reason why I didn't end up longing. I had a decent short. Actually, I shorted the highs on NQ and ES, and I took almost no profit. Well, very little profit. It was really slow, and I kind of doubted it a few times. It went, and yeah, very little profit. If had I held it, maybe to no, I didn't really have a downside target, to be honest. Besides last week's NPOC, so the profits would have been real good if that was the case. I mean, it would have been like close to 30-40 points from my entry. That trade would have, believe it was sometime around like 7, maybe 8 o'clock. What's YM doing? YM's coming down a little. That's interesting. They made a new all-time high last week, so that was actually a good long there too. Yes, for late entry. On that pullback to 69.35. Yeah, the gap fill is like 5 points away. I don't really want to test it, because the stop loss It's too large for me to play. I think we go up from here, to be honest, but I'm just not willing to put any risk on it. Especially after that massive bottom wick. Yeah, I'm not really interested in anything here, especially with the late entry. This should go up and gap fill, which we're basically at right now. I got 69.35 pivot measured. You can kind of see it's option step position there. Largest dealer negative strike. Great divergence. Dang. This should run all the way up to 69.68 on ES. I don't anticipate upside though. Okay, so this is interesting. I'm at the pivot that I marked. Open was 69.16. That's about 40 points. That'll take us to 56-ish on the opening straddle. About 40 points, yeah. It should reject the pivot, come back, and then head right back up, if I had to guess. Here's the rejection. That's a 69.35 rejection there. An SPX. $69.35 offered a small rejection there. We got a gap up. Interesting. We got a gap up overnight on VIX that will likely run down to visit towards 17.8 and even maybe 17.65. So This move up looks very sustainable. Just depends on how we react here. Gamma looks pretty wide open. There's no, it's very light gamma positioning. So we're free to move if we want to move in either direction. We got a lot of positive gamma towards 6980 and above, especially above 7,000. That's where there's a lot of vol selling. NQ still headed up. Got a doji here. Do we want to reject this area? Oh, that was a late entry. We may reject all the way down to 69.25. We'll do it 10 points, maybe, from here. It's only 5 points. 5 points of risk. My points of risk on ES. Really poor entry. I tried to enter around 53, 54, but was way too slow clicking the button. Is what it is. And I kind of figured it was a high risk short. I didn't really love like where we were at. Because I saw price action wanting to move up. NQ looks like it still wants to move up too. Still like this to like maybe 69, 68 on ES. YM is trying to single-handedly bring us down. But ES is, ooh, that was harsh. ES is just not reacting because NQ. Oh my goodness. That was insane. It tried to sell. It blipped down for about 8 points. I'll probably get wicked out here, which is unfortunate. I guess my take profit was a little too aggressive. Hit half the fair value gap. That's interesting. But YM really wanted to take us down. NQ offered that one minute candle. That was red. That wasn't pretty. That was very nasty price action there. Is there any news coming out? I'm expecting. Oh yeah, there's the wick out. Wasn't in love with that play to begin with, but it did give us like maybe 7 points. Yeah, 7 points. That's unfortunate because it was like a blip. So I didn't really have much time to react there. But after that retest, I would expect it to go right back up towards that 69.68 on SPX. Sorry, on ES. No real news this morning. All right. Still want VIX to go lower. Oh, come on. Look at that. Can't catch a break there. I think my stop was a little too tight. Still holding my pivot, and there would have been my take profit. Yep, that would have been a good short had I still been in it. The question is, do I expect more? As if VIX didn't hit that section. If they hit that section, I would have just confidently held the short. But anyways, that was 10 points. I would have got my 10 points there. Up rather than down 5 points. But it is what it is. I left my stop loss a little too tight. That was actually just such a beautiful short. It even worked out from a volume profile perspective. 69.35 held it down real nice. Oh my goodness. $69.20. Trying to hold the $69.20 area. Very unclear from a volume profile perspective, like on the daily time frame. So I don't love anything. I should have committed to that short. Gave 10 points. Hills are up. That's very interesting. Defenses are down. So I'd bet on upside here, to be honest. The entry's quite a bit late, though. Yeah, I really like the upside here. Very choppy stuff, though. So I have to get a decent entry. If I can't get a decent entry, I can't really play it. So that was a gap fill and 69.35 pivot on SPX. Defensives are coming down slightly, but I mean, 10-point stop for YM's trying to hold up right now. NQ's trying to take us down. NQ feels a little bit heavy here. This is pretty much dead in the middle of a range. I'm not in favor of taking a trade long or short here. I can see both sides playing out. This is going to be a tough one, I think. I like the longs mainly because we got a few gaps to the downside on SPX. Sorry, on VIX. It looks like YM's trying to move up here. I don't love the downside play right now. Yeah. The upside play looks okay right now. It's just ranging. Very crummy range. Just in a pretty tight range right now. Let me take a look at the gamma chart here. 69.20. So we bounced off 69.20. Yeah, that's very interesting. So I'm gonna move over to the dealer positioning charts and gamma. Check here. So that 69.35 rejected pretty decently, probably around here in between these two strikes, 69.35 and 69.40. Then we spooled down towards 69.20. which is perfect. Starting to like this to the upside. Will I take a really bad risk though to get in? Really starting to like the way this looks to the upside towards 69.68. All right, so VIX is running down. I like 69.50 on SPX. 69.50 on SPX would be about 14 points up from here. So 14 points up. Yeah. Suspected. All right. Main reason why I entered that long there. It looks really good. Now, the question is, do we run down to 17.64 VIX? But the VIX just filled. So in theory, I should take this position off. 69.61. All right. It's going to take out SPX highs. Should take out SPX highs. $69.64. When we hit that 69.69. Yes. Yes. So from a just running back, looking at the dealer profile, the breakdown by strike, you can see that 69.20. If you're looking at the cluster that has built up, it's built up basically. It's a negative dealer strike cluster between 69.25 and 69.45, sandwiched between two dealer positive strikes. So 69.20 and 69.50. We bottomed at 69.20 on SPX at 9.50 on that candle. And then now we're pushing up towards 69.45. And that I'd take profit at 4.5, in between 4.5 and 50. It could come back to retest first. I mean, VIX has already gap filled. I would like to see NQ run towards 249. Yeah, I would have wanted to see 69.61 at the very least. If it just leaves it shy, then that'd be very unfortunate. $69.64. 69.64 would make the most sense, in my opinion. I don't love the divergence I'm seeing on between NQ and ES here. Hopefully that can resolve. Nope, we see the divergence. The divergence is holding. Definitely not a pretty market though. I want to see us break this pivot and then move right towards that 69.50 SPX level. Looking at the dealer strikes. Definitely choppy. YM's trying to push now. Once we get that 17.61 gap fill, I think I'm going to have to close out regardless of where the price is on ES. Ideally, we do see a run towards 69.45, so another 7 points from here. And I'll get the 69.40 touch. That'd be perfect. Sorry, 69.64 touch on ES. I'd consider that the perfect take profit. So 5 more points. I'm gonna be a dick for a tick. Come on. A few more ticks. Don't leave me shy. 63. Bring around 63. Three ticks shy. We should hit it. YM is still rocketing, so. I think I'm being a dick for a tick here. There you go. Here's the push up. That was perfect. Now, looking at SPX, we still got maybe another 3 or 4 points that we can run up. But that was a good high risk play. That was getting an entry in the middle of the move. It wasn't like a perfect bottom tick entry, as most people would really want. But it's the best that we can do right now, given that I missed out on that 69.62 entry at 950 off the 950 candle. Something that I always tend to do too is move my stop loss to break even. Had I moved my stop loss to break even there, I would have got killed. Yeah, this is 67 was like 68 would have been a really nice take. Very nice take profit, especially because SPX would have hit that 50 mark. And it did. So it was perfect. That entry was nice. Well, the entry wasn't great, but it was a second. Yeah, so now you have to wonder if this is the pivot down, potentially, because of the cluster. Just going back towards the dealer profile there, the breakdown by strikes. Yeah, I have to think that this might be a reasonable short. The only thing is, once we make it above that 69.50, I think we have a decent chance of staying within that 69.50, 69.80 range. Which it pretty much looks like that. But yeah, today we had maybe two good plays and then two reasonable plays. And I classify my entry as a reasonable play because the entry was a secondary entry and it was at 69.5375 with a take profit of 64. So we got 10 points off of it, but it wasn't my I hate the secondary move now. The risk is just too large, especially if I'm wrong. But I think for the most part we had a 1R risk or 1R, so 1-to-1 risk reward. The morning play off the lows where NQ swept its overnight lows, that was perfect. That was a great entry. If you wanted to knife catch that, it was great. There wasn't really a 5-minute candle that was that pretty without taking much risk. It's quite the bottom wick. I mean, you might have gotten an entry at let's say 69.36 to 38 on ES. And you would have looked at like a 12 to 14 point stop loss, right? That's the tough part. And just like that, we got a decent rejection there. off of 69.50, right? Exactly what we were talking about, that cluster there. And you would have gotten, I don't know, maybe about 10 points. If you entered off the 5-minute candle, that was higher volume, you would have only gotten about 4 or 5 points right now. So there wasn't a lot, but that was an interesting spot because I believe there's like a lower time frame, low volume node there on NQ and LVN. On ES, we hit an edge too, and also a low volume node. Oh, yeah, that would have been a beautiful short. These are all scalps though, right? Because I don't know that the trend is going to shift here. But VIX has gap filled. ES's or SPX's breakdown by strike, the cluster has basically gave you the playbook. Then you also have the edge of the volume profile nodes. I like to look at the 4 hour and the 1 hour, the 4 hour, and the 1 day. The 1 day is a little bit noisy here. Let's see where we hit. Oh yeah, we hit 70. Maybe the 1 day isn't that noisy, but it was very obvious on the 4 hour and the 1 hour. Now, that massive top wick, I would normally want to short. I would normally want to short it. It's a 15-minute top wick. I would be pretty tempted to short, but because this area has been tested overnight, the volume profile node anyways, had been tested before on a higher time frame, I don't really want to play it. Yeah, I don't like, that was a nice 10-point rejection, but it looks like that's all we're gonna get. And then we're gonna get a nice run up towards well, it might be slow and choppy because this is the dealer positive strike cluster. And I can see a move towards 69.76. 69.76. Yeah, hence why I didn't short. This is perfect. Oh man, that was like a nice buying opportunity too, but that's only if you truly believe in the upside. Yeah, more upside. YM is just on a rocket now after that 15-minute bottom wick. So I don't see much downside here. 2 points. Yeah, I think I'm gonna call it here. We've already hit the straddle high. Ooh, yeah, this is interesting. The dealer strikes have changed substantially here after 10:30. This might be interesting. So VIX hit previous day low. Yep, that looks good. Yeah, I'm gonna call it after the one decent trade. We're up pretty reasonably on the day, especially after the overnight. So I think I'm gonna call it. Maybe another 10 points up at the very least. 10 points. Wow, okay. It's an interesting spot to reject there. YM is still going up. NQ did a nice top wick there, but on 5 minutes, but it was really just the edge of a node. I mean, we could come back down towards 230 on NQ, but it really isn't that much. Yeah, the risk is just too large in my opinion. We don't want to play this. Your ES is pretty much at an overnight high. It's only 1040. This one's a little tempting because it was right at the edge of the node. It's still 20 points of risk. I'd be risking about half my profits on a day just on this trade. Place where we have rejected before already, so it's not my favorite trade as a result. Let's see. We would have entered in like maybe the 260 mark on NQ. Let's say maybe 257. Yeah, that's a good no take so far. Just chopping it up right now. All right, I am definitely calling it. There is a chance that we reject this area on NQ, but we may have already rejected that area overnight. Part of the reason why I didn't really like that rejection play at 69.70 on ES also, but it did give 10 points. Yeah, definitely not in love with this. VIX is trying to bottom up here though. Bottom out. Potential for a pullback here. I just don't think it's like gonna be that large of a pullback. Positioning changed again. It's gonna start fishboning, and I'm not gonna love it. Especially because my edge kind of goes away. So I think I'm gonna call it here. This is a pretty good day on stream. I haven't had many of those since starting, so I had to revamp and revisit my trade plan and what I've been doing wrong. So I think I've done that. And I've been working on my entries a little. So from there, I think we're in a much better place than we were previously. Streaming while I think the streaming portion was really starting to mess with my head a little. But I do like the fact that if I'm contemplating a trade, I'm able to voice what the trade is, and it helps me define the reasons as to why I want to enter this trade, which I find helpful. The only problem was my entries were really garbage in the past. because I guess I feared losing a few trades here and there on stream, and then I ended up losing a bunch of trades on stream. So it was quite the adjustment. I'm still adjusting now, so we'll see if we can hold this up into the week. But overall, it's a good first day of the week. Anyways, we'll catch you later. Have a good one.